California's $4.7 billion earthquake wall is already cracking. And 8 million people have no idea the shield they're counting on is failing. Not protecting them, not holding, failing. Right now, beneath the feet of millions in the Bay Area, a massive water system designed to survive the next big one is already showing signs of structural failure before the earthquake even hits. The Hetch Hetchy Regional Water System carries clean drinking water from the Sierra Nevada mountains, 167 miles downhill to San Francisco and neighboring counties. It crosses 3 of the most active earthquake faults in North America. And the pipes that deliver this water, some made of riveted steel from the 1920s and the 1930s, were never designed to withstand the magnitude 7.1 earthquake that structural engineers now say could hit at any moment. The retrofitting project to fix this vulnerability cost $4.7 billion. 8 million people depend on it. And according to recent reports, the new infrastructure is already experiencing problems that suggest it may not survive what it was specifically built to handle. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Because what's happening in California right now is a masterclass in how governments fail their citizens in plain sight, building massive shields they can't afford to maintain, installing infrastructure they don't fully understand, and then hoping nobody asks questions until it's too late. Today, we're going to show you exactly what's breaking, who knew about it, and why almost nobody is talking about it. Let's start with the numbers, because numbers tell a story the agencies don't want you to hear. California holds 16 million people in extreme seismic hazard zones. That's not theoretical. That's real families, real businesses, real hospitals sitting on the edge of geological time bombs that could activate tomorrow. The San Andreas Fault alone has a 59% probability of generating a magnitude 6.7 or larger earthquake in the next 30 years. Think about that probability. Flip a coin. Heads, the biggest earthquake California has seen in over a century, hits while you're at work. Tails, it doesn't. But the coin lands on heads almost 2 out of 3 times. The southern San Andreas, the fault line that runs through Los Angeles, through the heart of 8 million people, carries the highest risk of any fault in the state. And Los Angeles alone has a combined estimated $3 trillion in property value sitting directly on top of it. A magnitude 7.8 earthquake on the southern San Andreas would kill approximately 1,800 people instantly, injure 50,000 more, displace 500,000 residents, and cost upward of $200 billion in direct damage. That's not a prediction. That's a USGS estimate based on decades of modeling and data. But here's what they didn't tell you. While everyone was focused on protecting buildings and homes, the state overlooked something even more critical: the infrastructure that keeps water flowing when the ground is shaking violently enough to liquefy soil and tear apart 1920s-era pipelines. Enter the Hetch Hetchy Regional Water System. This is a structure so massive, so vital to the survival of 8 million people, that when engineers finally realized how vulnerable it was to seismic activity, they had to request $4.7 billion in taxpayer funding just to retrofit critical sections. The Hetch Hetchy Aqueduct starts at a reservoir 167 miles away in Yosemite. It crosses beneath the San Andreas Fault. It crosses beneath the Hayward Fault, a fault that ruptured in 1868 and hasn't moved since, meaning the strain is building, the pressure is mounting. And it crosses beneath the Calaveras Fault. These aren't minor geological features. These are mega-thrust-capable rupture zones that have generated earthquakes strong enough to collapse buildings and tear highways apart. And through all of them runs a pipe system designed when engineers were still trying to figure out what an earthquake actually was. This is where the failure begins. The original Hetch Hetchy pipes were installed in the 1920s and 1930s. They're made of riveted steel, not welded, riveted. Rivets are metal fasteners that join metal plates by force, not by fusion. They worked fine when trains were the fastest moving objects on Earth, and earthquakes were rare enough that engineers didn't factor them into their designs. Do you know what happens to riveted steel when the ground accelerates sideways at 50% of gravity? The rivets shear. The joints separate. Water begins leaking into the ground. The pressure drops. And if the rupture is severe enough, the entire pipe section fails, cutting off water supply to millions of people during the exact moment when water is needed most, for firefighting, for hospitals, for basic survival. Engineers who studied this system knew this. They calculated the risk. They ran simulations, and they determined that in a magnitude 7.1 earthquake on the Hayward Fault, sections of the original Hetch Hetchy aqueduct would fail catastrophically. So in 2002, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission launched the Water System Improvement Program, a comprehensive retrofit effort designed to replace the most vulnerable sections and install modern, earthquake-resistant technology with welded joints, flexible connectors, and sophisticated damping systems. The budget was set at $4.8 billion. The timeline was set for completion in the 2030s. And the goal was to ensure that even in the worst-case earthquake scenario, water would continue flowing to San Francisco and the Bay Area. The $4.7 billion was specifically allocated for the Hetch Hetchy segment. But there's a problem with that promise. Remember what happened to the early warning system recently? In December 2025, the Shake Alert system, designed to give Californians a precious few seconds of warning before an earthquake hits, sent a false alarm across the entire state. The system detected what it thought was a magnitude 5.9 earthquake near Reno, Nevada. Seismic stations received the signal. The algorithm processed it. The alert went out to millions of phones across California. And then, nothing. There was no earthquake. The Shake Alert operations team, led by Robert DeGroot, later acknowledged that something triggered the system out in the field, but it wasn't an earthquake. In other words, the system designed to protect us can't reliably distinguish between actual ground movement and some kind of false signal. Imagine what that means for infrastructure. If a warning system that costs millions per year to maintain and monitor can produce completely false alarms, what does that tell us about the reliability of infrastructure that cost billions and was installed years ago, often in conditions that engineers never fully documented? And here's the deeper fear. If the system can be fooled, what does that say about our ability to actually monitor whether the retrofitted infrastructure is working as intended? Dr. Lucy Jones, one of America's foremost seismologists and former USGS science advisor for risk reduction, has been trying to tell us this for years. Jones, who is famous for developing the Great Shakeout earthquake drill in 2008, has repeatedly emphasized that California's problem isn't just that we're unprepared, it's that we're unprepared and we don't know it. Most people, she has said publicly, assume that the systems protecting them are either working perfectly or they would know about it if they weren't. But that assumption is fundamentally wrong. In seismic infrastructure, failures often go undetected until the earthquake happens, and then it's too late. Thomas H. Jordan, the W.M. Keck Foundation Professor of Earth Sciences at USC and Director of the Southern California Earthquake Center, has been leading California's earthquake forecasting efforts for decades. Jordan's research has shown that the state's long-term earthquake probability models are extremely reliable. But there's a critical caveat. They only tell us the probability that an earthquake will happen. They tell us absolutely nothing about whether the infrastructure we've built to survive that earthquake will actually work when the time comes. And if a $4.7 billion earthquake wall is already cracking, literally experiencing structural problems before the seismic event it was designed to handle, then we have to ask the hard question: how many other pieces of California's safety net are failing silently right now? Consider this. Only 10% of California homeowners carry earthquake insurance. That means 90% of the state is completely unprotected financially. When the big one hits, and the probability models say it will within your lifetime, most people won't be able to rebuild. The state government isn't paying for it. Insurance won't cover it. The federal government will provide some disaster relief, but it will be a fraction of what's needed. Those homeowners will simply have to leave. And every time 10 or 20 or 50,000 families abandon their homes, the economy of that region collapses. Entire communities disappear. Property values evaporate. And the people who needed to evacuate, the elderly, the poor, the sick, suddenly have no place to go. And if that just cracked your confidence in what you thought was protecting you, every subscriber is automatically entered in our monthly giveaway for a branded hoodie. Details in the description. But the water system failure is just one piece of a much larger infrastructure collapse waiting to happen. California has 1.5 million buildings that predate modern seismic codes. That's not 1.5 million houses. That's 1.5 million structures, apartments, offices, hospitals, schools, any one of which could pancake during the next major earthquake if the ground shaking is severe enough. Many of these buildings were constructed before engineers understood anything about seismic design. They have no lateral bracing. They have no damping systems. Some are built on soft soil that will liquefy when shaken. And here's what keeps engineers up at night. There's a class of earthquakes called super shear earthquakes that move faster than seismic waves. They focus energy directly along the fault line. And research from USC has shown that many of California faults are capable of producing super shear ruptures. But California's building codes were written for regular earthquakes. The energy patterns are different, the timing is different, the shaking is more violent, and nobody really knows how buildings designed to the current code will actually perform under a super shear rupture. It's theoretical. Until it's not. Until the ground starts shaking at speeds that the code writers never contemplated. Until the ground is moving faster than sound. The Hayward Fault, which runs directly beneath the San Francisco Bay Area, beneath Oakland, beneath Berkeley, beneath millions of people's homes, last ruptured in 1968. That was 158 years ago. The average interval between Hayward Fault earthquakes is about 140 years. Do you understand what that means? The fault is overdue. Strain has been accumulating for nearly 2 centuries, and every year that passes is another year of pressure building, another year of stored energy waiting to be released. The tectonic plates are grinding against each other. The friction is mounting. The rupture is coming. When it finally breaks, it won't be a gentle reminder that we should update our earthquake preparedness plan. It will be a violent, chaotic release of energy that will collapse buildings, liquefy soil, rupture water mains, trigger fires across the Bay Area simultaneously, and cut off emergency response access to the people who need it most. And the hetchy pipes running directly under that fault will feel that rupture with absolute force. They will experience ground accelerations of 50%, 60%, maybe 70% of gravity. They will experience lateral spreading, the ground literally sliding sideways beneath them. They will experience the kind of structural stress that no infrastructure, no matter how much it costs, can completely survive. The best we can hope for is that the retrofitted sections fail less catastrophically than they would have if the retrofit had never happened. But less catastrophically still means people without water. Still means hospitals unable to operate. Still means fires that burn out of control because there's no water pressure to fight them. Still means a region of 8 million people facing a cascading infrastructure collapse. Here's the political reality nobody wants to admit. Building earthquake-resistant infrastructure is astronomically expensive. The Hetchy retrofit was $4.7 billion. The seawall retrofit in San Francisco is estimated to cost $5 billion. Retrofitting all 1.5 million vulnerable buildings in California would cost hundreds of billions of dollars. The state doesn't have that money. The federal government won't allocate it. So instead, We get piecemeal retrofits, half measures, and fingers crossed hoping that the big earthquake doesn't hit before the most critical infrastructure gets upgraded. And in the meantime, 8 million people are counting on systems that are already showing signs of failure. There's a parallel situation developing that makes this even darker. The Cascading subduction zone, a massive fault system running from Northern California all the way up to Vancouver Island in Canada, is capable of generating a magnitude 9.0 earthquake. We're talking about one of the most powerful earthquakes the planet can produce. The last time Cascadia ruptured, on January 26, 1700, it was so powerful that it generated a tsunami that crossed the entire Pacific Ocean in 10 hours and was documented in detailed historical records in Japan. Scientists have analyzed those records, they've modeled the rupture, and they've confirmed Cascadia produced a magnitude 9.0 earthquake. And it will do it again. Scientists estimate there's about a 37% probability of another Cascadia megathrust earthquake in the next 50 years. If it happens, the earthquake itself wouldn't affect California directly since the rupture is offshore in the Pacific. But the tsunami it generates would hit the California coast with waves up to 30 feet high, traveling at the speed of jet airplanes. And if it coincides with high tide, storm surge, or climate change-driven sea level rise, coastal communities throughout California would be devastated. Buildings would be swept away, infrastructure would be destroyed, and the state has no coordinated tsunami warning system integrated with its earthquake early warning system. The coordination between federal, state, and local agencies is poor, and millions of people living on the coast have no evacuation plan. So where are we? We have a $4.7 billion water system that's already showing structural problems. We have an early warning system that can't distinguish between real earthquakes and false alarms. We have 1.5 million buildings that will probably fail in the next big earthquake. We have 90% of homeowners with zero earthquake insurance. We have a fault system 37% likely to rupture in the next 50 years. And we have another fault system that's already overdue by more than a decade. And for all of this, there is no coordinated state plan. There is no comprehensive retrofit strategy. There is no funding mechanism. There is no honest conversation with the public about what will actually happen when the big one hits, and it will hit. The probability says it will. The geology says it will. The question isn't whether. The question is when, and whether we'll be ready. The answer, based on everything we've just shown you, is no. We won't be ready, not even close. And if a $4.7 billion shield is already failing, then grab your free disaster preparedness toolkit. The link is in the description. This toolkit is designed by emergency management professionals to walk you through exactly what you need to do before, during, and after a major earthquake. It covers evacuation routes, supply lists, communication plans, and specific protocols for earthquake survival. Because if the government won't protect you, you have to protect yourself. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more investigations into the infrastructure that's failing silently all around us. And we'll see you in the next one.